There are certain gimmicks that on paper sound truly awful, but upon execution, they exceed all expectations. And for this to work, the person behind the gimmick and character must be completely devoted to making that character come to life on television. Combine this with a solid presentation and WWE actually devoting time and effort to the character, and you have an instant recipe for success. Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 awful WWE gimmicks that shouldn't have worked, but did. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. Number 10. Chris Jericho, The List of Jericho. Chris Jericho is the undisputed king of evolution. He's undertaken several different gimmicks throughout his career, and he believes that the secret to longevity is a continued evolution that keeps the Jericho brand fresh and current. In 2016, Jericho debuted a brand new gimmick known as the List of Jericho. This is a gimmick which saw Jericho just carry around a clipboard, and anyone who got on the bad side of him was added to the list. It was an unusual gimmick, but Jericho managed to pull it off. The gimmick was insanely popular, so much so that the list gimmick was the most over gimmick in WWE between 2016 to 2017. It's unlikely anyone outside of Jericho could have been able to make this gimmick work, but one of the keys to the gimmick working was that it was dropped at its peak, and Jericho moved on to a brand new character change. This prevented the gimmick getting stale and fans subsequently becoming bored of Jericho's trademark clipboard. Number 9. Damian Mizdao. Now in August 2014, Damian Sandow debuted a brand new gimmick. He would now be the Miz's stunt double and now would be known as Damian Mizdao. Whilst this was rumoured to just last a few weeks, the gimmick immediately took off, and it lasted for a number of months. And all Damian had to do was just copy everything the Miz did in his matches. Sounded pretty silly, but fans loved the gimmick as it was fun, entertaining, and was often the highlight of a dull and lackluster 3 hours of Raw. WWE clearly didn't expect the gimmick to get over to the level it did, and this likely explains why the gimmick was dropped after WrestleMania 31, and Mizdao unfortunately fell into obscurity. Number 8. Rikishi. Now, after taking on some infamous gimmicks during the New Generation era, Solafa Fatu debuted on WWE television as Rikishi. He dyed his hair blonde and now wore a mawashi for his matches, and while similar in some areas to other gimmicks that have been done before in WWE, Rikishi's gimmick stood out when he joined forces with Too Cool. Rikishi was a fun-loving superstar who enjoyed dancing and loved to stick his backside in opponents' faces. During an appearance on The Insight with Chris Van Vliet, Rikishi discussed the origins of his iconic gimmick and stated, "I was getting paid to stick my ass in people's faces and bust a move and dance. All these years it took me breaking my body, bumping, getting hit with chairs, you name it. And then finally, this is what takes me overboard, was backing that ass up and busting a move." Bruce Pritchard said Vince wanted to have a meeting with me. We had that meeting and away I went. When he came up with the idea of wanting to do a sumo, as soon as he said sumo I thought of my cousin Yoko, and I was like, I don't want to do a sumo character when my cousin already did it, just due to respect for Yoko. He wanted to do the whole yours will be different. I want to show you your butt wearing the shoot sumo gear. Now when he said that, I said, you mean just everything on show, my buttocks, live on TV? Now it also helped that Rikishi was a great hand in the ring and was able to keep up with the main event level talents. It was a perfect gimmick for the Attitude Era, and the gimmick is responsible for getting Rikishi inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Number 7. Cowboy Brock Lesnar. WWE made a bold decision in early 2022 when they separated Paul Heyman from Brock Lesnar. Heyman had been a permanent fixture next to Lesnar's 2012 return, and there was some concern that Lesnar was going to struggle on his own. Lesnar appeared to gain a new lease of confidence overnight as he would wear lumberjack shirts and a cowboy hat for his segments, and it appears as if he was having the time of his life. The idea of Lesnar turning into a lovable babyface who had comedic segments with the likes of Sami Zayn shouldn't have worked, but it actually did. Lesnar looked more motivated than ever, and he even went on record to say how much fun he was having with the modified character. Number 6. Goldust. When the bizarre one Goldust finally appeared on TV in 1995, fans had no idea what to think. This was a character that wore a gold bodysuit and had a love for theatrics. His gimmick and character was filled with innuendo that was extremely controversial for the time, and only Dustin Rhodes would have been able to pull this iconic character off. Goldust would have his real-life wife Terry as his valet, called Marlena, and this brought an extra dimension to the character, as it was always intriguing to the true nature of their relationship. The character became insanely over as 95 turned into 96, and Goldust eventually became one of the most popular and beloved characters in WWE. He would discuss the origins of the character in 2013 in an interview with Wrestling Inc. He stated, So Vince explained the character and I agreed to it and all that, so he was going to fire me up and start putting it together. Getting off the phone, I had to go to the dictionary and look up androgynous because I had no idea what the hell that meant. And I laughed and I said, well, let's do this. I'm going to put 110% into it. Vince is backing it, he's behind it, and he's pushing it. Great, let's do it. So it took me about 6 or 7 months to learn that heel way and learn this androgynous character. Then once I finally agreed to step it forward to the edge and it took it to the next level, it really snapped. It really worked. I didn't turn back, I just went straight ahead. Number 5. The Hurricane. During the peak of the Invasion storyline in WWE, they decided to debut a brand new character. Shane Helms was going to turn into the Hurricane, who was in essence a comedic superhero. On paper this sounded terrible and it sounded like it was created for the new generation era, but upon execution it exceeded all expectations. The Hurricane debuted in a match against Matt Hardy and actually won the European title in his first ever match, which was a clear sign that WWE were taking this gimmick very seriously. At first the character was intended to be a heel, but the crowd was so drawn in by this unique character that they were forced to turn him babyface. The character was a massive draw, especially with younger fans, and his merchandise was always a huge success. The character worked mainly thanks to Helms, who was a gifted in-ring talent, and this allowed him to not just have a great presence as a character, but as an in-ring worker. Number 4. The New Day. The New Day are the longest tenured stable in WWE history, but nobody could have ever expected the group to have the success they have. When the stable first came together in 2014, the idea for the group was 3 preachers who came together for a common cause and they were to spread their wisdom to the masses. This later transitioned into the power of positivity gimmick that fans would eventually come to know and love. When the gimmick first debuted, fans expected the stable to break up within a few months, as it appeared as if the gimmick had a short shelf life. However, thanks to each member of the stable bringing something different and all of them having a ton of charisma, they managed to pull the gimmick off. Number 3. King Booker. It's traditionally common for King of the Ring winners to alter their gimmick and in turn become a king. Whilst the majority of superstars have been unable to pull this off effectively, one superstar set the standard of how to deliver the king gimmick. That superstar was Booker T, who took on the gimmick in 2006 after he won the illustrious tournament. Booker transitioned into King Booker and everything about his character was changed. He would begin to talk in a posh English accent, and he would even have a great cast of side characters including Queen Charmel, William Regal, and Fit Finlay. The gimmick change was a monumental success, so much so that WWE quite rightly decided to put the world title on Booker at the Great American Bash event in 2006. Booker's entire career was filled with iconic moments, but his run as King Booker was without a doubt the most acclaimed time period of his WWE tenure. Number 2. Baroque Corbin. During his WWE career, Baron Corbin has often been criticized by fans for being one of the most boring stars on the roster. However, this all changed in 2021 when Corbin lost his King of the Ring crown to Shinsuke Nakamura and Corbin went through a gimmick change. He would lose his wealth and everyone he loved had left him. Corbin was now completely broke, and to make this gimmick work, he debuted a brand new disheveled look which saw him grow out his facial hair and he would continuously wear the same set of clothes. Corbin's commitment to this gimmick was tremendous and was without a doubt the best work of his entire career. Corbin showed critics that he was a big-time player in WWE and showed fans that he has great range as a performer. And number 1. JBL. Following the departure of Brock Lesnar and Goldberg in 2004, WWE urgently needed to create new stars. The idea was to push APA member Bradshaw into the main event scene, albeit with a brand new gimmick. Bradshaw would become John Bradshaw Layfield, and it worked wonders for his future. An established tag team guy went into the main event picture scene overnight, and this should have never worked, but thanks to JBL's amazing character work, it created one of the WWE's top stars for several years to come. JBL was a rich, pompous villain who had radical and controversial ideals. The gimmick change worked not just thanks to JBL's work, but also thanks to Eddie Guerrero. Guerrero was key to JBL's success, and Guerrero even agreed to put JBL over and lose the title to him in order to show fans that his character was legitimate and should be taken seriously. Well, there you have it folks, 10 awful WWE gimmicks that shouldn't have worked, but actually did. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.